Welcome to the final video of the semester. This video is called a learning map. When I teach this class in a face-to-face context, we spend time in the last week accumulating all of the learning outcomes and ideas and major assignments from the class on the board and connecting all of our ideas together. Since we're not in the classroom to do that, I'm going to take the time in this video to connect some of the major themes with our outcomes. So without further ado, we're going to get started. I want to review, first of all, what our learning outcomes were. These pertain to the final discussion board that you're doing also, where I'm going to ask you to put these outcomes into conversation with the white paper, the final white paper assignment that you did. So as you can see here, they're up on the screen. This semester, you were expected to become proficient in each of these things. So this first one is communicate effectively. You needed to learn to identify, analyze, and target specific readers and listeners. You really worked on that in this final white paper. You're supposed to be working on that, targeting an audience. Communicating effectively also concerns articulating your communication purpose and employing appropriate rhetorical strategies in the service of that purpose. So how did you go about appealing to the audiences that you were writing for? What did you do to establish your credibility, to provide logical, statistical information for them, or to perhaps appeal to them emotionally? There are many ways that you could do that. You needed to demonstrate facility with ideas and language. You needed to analyze and synthesize information in a sophisticated and complex rhetorical and logical way, to devise and employ effective document design, particularly with regard to multimodal documents and contexts. Now, in terms of multimodality, a lot of what you did this semester in an online class concerned various modes of information delivery. When you had to deliver a screencast to me, you were using a new mode of information conveyance. When you had to present an alphabetic text document, like a PDF in a traditional sort of written up report, that's a different mode too. That's a textual mode. When you had to create a PowerPoint presentation, that is using a presentation tool mode. So there are many modes that you use to share information with me. And how effectively you did it determined how high or low your grade was. And the final one here is you needed to know and be able to modify conventional formats of standard professional documents. So I asked you, for one, just one example, to use the template of a memo. How well were you able to work within that? How well were you able to modify it for what you needed to do in your particular memo? That's just one example, but you worked with other genres as well, genres of professional documents. Okay, the next outcome is conduct relevant, professional, and innovative research, both primary and secondary. So you needed to show me by the end of the semester that you understood and you could implement appropriate strategies for gathering information. In your interview memoranda also, I needed to see your notes. That was one way that I wanted to see how well you collected information. You needed to be able to integrate the ideas and language of various sources, and you needed to document your sources and your research professionally. So for one example, you did this in your interview dossier because it had several components where you needed to do secondary research and you needed to do the primary research of the interview. The next one is working collaboratively. Of course, you had to do a group collaborative project, which was the data visualization project, where you used a data set that I gave you and you had to present as a group new iterations of this information. So you needed to be able to demonstrate flexibility to lead, listen, facilitate, negotiate, and participate as needed to build and sustain group productivity. You needed to demonstrate knowledge of and respect for various perspectives and approaches. So really, you guys internally know how well or how poorly this worked, what the dynamics were within your group, but you did give me feedback on it. And I was able to see what the ultimate product was, how well you guys succeeded in collaborating. And that was a main project in this class. You needed to engage in peer review. I said this on a number of occasions to students individually. I say it all the time. I know students don't love peer review, but it's really important in the field of technical communication, and it's important in a writing program, a program within which this class exists. So getting feedback from readers and listeners about your work is very valuable. Of course, it depends on the investment of the person, who's reading your work. I tried to give you guys pretty serious frameworks to guide your review. Some of you used that framework and some of you didn't, but it was there to help you provide rich feedback. So this outcome intended to lead you towards proficiency in asking readers and listeners specific questions about the content and delivery of your own documents and presentations. We were hoping that you could learn to evaluate and revise your ideas and expressions as appropriate in response to reader feedback. So that would be the feedback of your peers in the discussion board peer review area. And regarding the white paper, some of you came to meet with me in person or you met with me via Google Hangouts or Skype. So I was able to give you feedback, and hopefully you're using that in preparation for your final draft. So hopefully you learned as a reviewer to provide specific, respectful, and useful feedback to your peers based on an attentive and close reading of their work. So I hoped that you would gain an understanding of the history of the field. I provided you with a few articles this semester, the O'Hara and the Durack readings that were directly on this topic. And also you learned a little bit more about current realities in the field from speaking to practitioners. So to satisfy this outcome, I hope that you would be able to share with me, whether in the discussion board or in other assignments, your comprehension of the evolution of the field as an industry and as an academic field of research and teaching. Now, we also use these concepts from the Society for Technical Communication from their foundation exam, and you're probably sick and tired of hearing about this, but these are the 9 competencies that they want beginning level practitioners to be able to understand, discuss, and execute. So they are project planning, project analysis, content development, organizational design, written communication, visual communication, reviewing and editing, content management, and production and delivery. Now, of course, in that Intercom article that you've read on a number of occasions, there are explanations for each of these. So I've just given you the titles here, but these should resonate with you if somebody asked you in an elevator, so in your professional and technical communication program, in your minor and the certificate, or just in a course that you took at UNM, how did you work towards visual communication? What did you do to communicate information visually? Did you work on reviewing documents and editing them? How did you manage the content development process or the content completion process towards the final draft of a document? Now, here's a little slide that I created for you just to show some of the things that you read this semester and viewed this semester and worked on, just as a way to bring together some resonant visual artifacts that you should remember. So, of course, we had our textbook. Mike Markell, you read a great many chapters in there. This is a textbook that I would recommend that you keep your hands on. I don't know if you'll need it in another class, but it's an excellent resource. I actually just used it a few weeks ago to show a colleague the framework for writing a proposal. Here's an image from my presentation that was the midterm review, where I showed you some examples of data visualization up on the screen. In the middle here of the screen is my video that I created for you where I walked you through revising your resumes. Hopefully that's a really lasting and meaningful aspect of this course for you. In the bottom left, I included a very unflattering screenshot of myself from one of the early videos in the semester, just to jog your memory about all the videos that I created for you this semester and that were part of this class. And then finally, we have the STC logo. You know something about the profession. How the organization for this field works to provide credentials for people who work in the field and how they serve as just a community for professionals in this field.
As the slide says, the end. We've reached the end not only of the video, but of our English 290 class. Thanks for working so hard all semester. I've really enjoyed working with all of you. For those of you who aren't graduating, I'd love to see you in another technical and professional communication class. And if you have any questions about the minor or the certificate, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you all. Thanks for a great semester.